Well,
What are you
you
talking? Are
already
you
know
laying
what not
down
to
rules?
talk about.
Are you laying down rules?
No,
We're
they've
flying
been
blind
laid
today.
down for many, many years.
Oh, you mean we can't talk about Prince?
Can't talk about,
I'm
What?
out of here.
yeah. Well, that was easy.
Apparently,
Figure out how to get him out of here. Now
apparently
It's
we
been
are
a
now
dis-
streaming.
It's been a good show, guys. Loved it.
We're streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. We're about to start the Gillmor gang.
Okay, give it the count in, Tina, please.
Okay, mute is off. And we're gonna go in.
Who is it who's listening?
I got it. I'm fixing it. I got it. I'm all right.
All right, go ahead, Tina.
And we're gonna
Jeez.
go in 3, 2, wait, Frank's giving me the,
No, I'm good. Everything's fine.
okay. 3, 2, 1, and, ooh, wait, I'm not ready.
No, you sure aren't.
Okay.
All right, now do a
Mute-
take 4.
Oh, man, okay. Mute is off, and we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is an abbreviated version of the Gillmor Gang. Sorry for the late delay well, I said it was an early delay.
it was a delay, nonetheless.
Owing to the funeral of Colin Powell, a great man and someone who I never met, but feel like I know him. And welcome to, sorry?
That's a good point that you make there, Steve. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have met him, and he is exactly the guy you think he is when you're with him in person. I felt the same way. You felt like you knew the guy, and that's who he was.
Joining us from Seattle area is Michael Markman. Welcome, Michael.
How do you do? I met him once, just briefly at a trade show. He was that guy. But then again, at the trade show also, it had an exhibit of a wax figure of him for the biography channel. And he was pretty much the same as the wax figure.
Oh,
Let's see. In New York is Frank Radis. Welcome, Frank.
hi, Steve. Hello, gangsters. Good to see you again. Nice to be in some other city other than London or Savannah.
Why is it nice to be in some other city than Savannah? I thought it was nice.
Well,
there.
honestly, it was nice there, but it was 10 days in Savannah, and and they're not locked down by COVID, but moving around was not something that everybody wanted to do. The city was quiet. The screenings were less filled than they normally were. The activity, there was no big opening night party. Plus, for those of us who don't drink anymore, being in a town that's young and vibrant, there's a huge drinking economy there at night. It got a little boring after about 4 days for me.
Besides, you probably had it with hard-hearted Hannah.
Oh my God.
I don't understand what that means.
Vamp
Let's
of
see.
Savannah, hard-hearted Hannah.
Yeah.
Vamp of Savannah, GA.
Yeah. Honestly, there's like 2 of us on this call who remember that, Michael.
I guess so.
I'm enjoying being out of that loop.
Yeah. You're in the loop. You just weren't part of that part of the loop. That's all.
Yeah. Well, luckily I had Mickey Mantle and then the Beatles to occupy my time. Let's see. Roger Maris was okay, but
Bill Moose Scourin.
Yeah, the Yankees 61 lineup was almost as good as the Murderers Row of 27, but not quite. And that's our little Yankee fan moment.
Yeah.
So speaking of Yankee fans from the state of Massachusetts. Yeah, exactly. He's looking around for cover, I think. And that's Dennis Pombriant. Welcome, Dennis.
Hey guys, Now I know what it's like
Hey.
to herd cats.
Oh,
What?
boy.
Are you herding cats?
Now I'm listening to you.
Okay.
Where's your Red Sox hat?
I've got one in the other room.
Okay. All right.
Do you have enough for a lower third? Okay. In Atlanta or near Atlanta, Georgia is Brent Leary. Welcome, Brent.
It's always a pleasure to be amongst a group of very venerable folks. I really enjoy
Yeah. What group is that?
that.
It's
This esteemed gathering of venerableness here.
Yeah.
Venerable.
I enjoy it.
venerable. Sounds like a rash.
I think
Yeah, I
it's
had
just a
that.
polite.
I just got rid of that.
It's a polite word for old. He's
It's not
basically
polite,
saying,
and it
I'm the
is-
young guy here.
Yeah, there's nothing polite about it.
Yeah, exactly.
boy.
Thank you.
Didn't that used to be a compliment when you called somebody venerable?
There's
Yeah, it
how
used to
many
be.
things used to be compliments are still compliments today, my friend. You know,
Oh, that's true.
let's not forget we are a woke society. Ooh, he said it. He went there.
Mm.
It's a bit
We
like
had gone
when-
months without that.
It's a little bit
Oh, you
like when you
guys
call
can-
it when the
You can take
CEO
care of
gets,
yourselves, every one of you. Let me just introduce the team and then back off. Who else do we have? Oh, from the state of California, Palo Alto version. Is that Northern California or Southern California?
Oh, come on, Steve.
it's basically Central California, which doesn't really exist. You have to be northern or southern. So if you have to choose, you say northern.
It's northern.
And that's Keith Tier. Welcome, Keith.
A pleasure
Northern.
to be here. My Colin Powell, I went through hating him and loving him through, probably many people did. I hated him in 2003 when Iraq was invaded. I loved him later when he acknowledged what a mistake that was and he wished he hadn't been part of it. And it showed what an honest person he is, which I think the funeral today showed he was a man of faith because it was a very religious funeral. And probably those parts of Christianity which talk about honesty and being right were deep in his very core, which I think is who he was.
I think you're right.
All right. So what are we going to talk about today?
You decide that.
Yeah, come on, take a shot. Rolling down the river. Okay, if you're just going to sit there and have crickets, guys, let's talk about how the Democrats learned a lesson in this past election.
No.
Or
Sure.
didn't, Frank.
Or didn't. I mean, I came out of it going that I don't think that Virginia thing was so bad.
Mm.
I don't either. I mean, whatever happened to the old maxim that all politics is local?
Well, for one thing, McAuliffe forgot about that.
He sure did.
Well, also the Republican was really good at creating new national narratives. Even though
Absolutely.
it's local, it's become national.
The Republican
Interestingly, though, that
really
that
didn't-
national narrative was a lie on the part of the Republican. However, it did seem to work a little bit in the end.
What do you mean by national narrative?
Well, the critical race theory argument.
I'm talking about his assertion that children were being forced to learn critical race theory, despite parent objections, that seemed to key in not to necessarily racist sentiment, but to anti-government sentiment. And
It was
seems like-
racist. It
No,
was
it's
racist
both.
all the way. It was racist all the way.
It's where racism meets hatred of politicians and people who control you.
Yes, and,
It's like lipstick on a pig to
one of the things that Youngkin did was not focus only on critical race theory, but to raise a broader question about education, because there were a
Yeah.
couple of issues going on. There was also a question about a school that had lowered its standards so that they could admit more people, which one of the elite public schools that had an entrance exam, they lowered their standards, and that pissed off a lot of parents, and Youngkin was able to rope that into it
Yeah.
and talk about a broad concern that people have about their kids and education, and also school closings. I mean, he made a big bundle about people's anxiety over the way the schools are being run, and CRT was just one component of it.
Yeah. Do you
He was
think
able to
that
reach out to a much broader coalition, and I think it's mainly the national pundits who focused only on the CRT component of that.
Yeah. Do you think that the fact that the Democrats couldn't pull off doing those two big votes prior to that election actually affected that election?
No, I think they would have lost anyway.
I don't either. I don't either. I don't either. And I think the press made too much out of that.
Heath, you're speaking too quietly. I can't hear you.
I said I think they would have lost anyway.
You know, with so much early voting going on, the Democrats would have had to have passed those bills about 2 months ago to affect the election. And that certainly wasn't going to happen.
So did the Democrats,
I wonder
was
if
that part of
jobs numbers had come out last week, if that would have affected the election, because that was a huge win for Biden.
Yeah.
You know, there's an interesting correlation between the funeral today and the just concluded election. It just popped into my head. I was watching the early coverage of the funeral, and a military man who knew Colin Powell said Powell was really good at breaking things down into action steps and understanding the goal, and then breaking things down into meaningful chunks that will get you to the goal. And it occurred to me just now that our entire nation doesn't have a goal. And because of that, we keep vacillating between blue and red in elections, and we're always surprised. We're always surprised when some yokel can come out of the woods and scare us with critical race theory or one thing or another. It's because we don't have any national goal, national agenda. And partly it's the electorate that should be blamed. We never blame the electorate, but maybe we should. And we also ought to blame the politicians for not being able to put a stake in the ground. I think if you look at what's going on in America today, the only person trying to put a stake in the ground is Joe Biden with these huge spending bills. And COVID relief.
Yes.
Who else is doing anything?
Not only Biden, but also Pramila Jayapal.
Yeah, she's certainly coming off as a pretty level-headed individual, especially at least from my perspective, watching it on TV. I don't know. As we get near the end of whatever it is they're going to do in the House, that she has been pretty upbeat and positive as we come towards the end, regardless of the fact that there's still a couple of centrist Democrats who are making noise. At least that's what I heard a couple of hours ago. I don't know if that's changed.
Jayapal and everybody else like her are working on objectives, not goals. Nobody's got a goal. Nobody's
Dennis, the
again,
interesting
aside from what I've seen out of Biden, I haven't seen anybody declare a goal. I've seen a lot of people futz around with objectives and once in a while strategies.
How would you characterize Biden's goal?
Build Back Better says an awful lot. It says our infrastructure has decayed for the last 40 years because we haven't invested in it. And by analogy, so has the rest of the society, whether it's in keeping up with the rest of the world with childcare or education or a whole raft of things. We have not kept pace with the world. We have not kept faith with ourselves. All we've done is worry about the tax rates.
when you think about a goal, it's interesting. In startups, you always have 3 goals. You have the next 90 days, the next 2 years, and then you have 10 years. And you always try to define all of them, because if you don't, the people who get authority to do things in the first 90 days or 2 years don't do it aligned with any kind of long-term goal. So when I think of goals, I think, the bills are really what I would call 90 days to 2 year goals. But society always needs long-term goals. And in America, there's divided opinion about what the goal should be. A lot of people say it's all about individual freedom from government, from interference, run your life the way you want, less taxes. Other people say it's an inclusive society where everyone can get healthcare, where it doesn't matter what race, gender, sexual preference, and so on you are. In that long-term goal, you get free education, free healthcare, and the wealth of society uplifts everybody. And it feels as if that is what's contested mostly is the long-term goal. And the short-term goal is all tactical, but is also contested as it relates to that long-term goal. And so ultimately, society can only have a goal if there's a consensus about long-term outcomes, which there isn't.
I don't disagree with that, but I would also say that we don't have long-term goals because we don't agree on some of the fundamentals that had been settled for 200 years, like the ideas that we got from Montesquieu and James Madison, like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have no trouble. We have no trouble trying to limit somebody else's pursuit of happiness. How can that be? We don't have that conversation.
It's because people don't understand the relationship between social good and individual freedom. They assume they're two separate things.
Because
Actually,
we don't talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's true.
I think that what Keith just said is an important doorway into this conversation, because to some extent that's framing that's used to advantage one side or the other. A lot of the individual freedom framing is meant to advantage the people with the most money.
Exactly.
And to try bring in people without money as electoral allies.
And that's been the case in
the amount of individual
the American
freedom
story forever.
Or don't have hasn't fluctuated that much. I mean, I can live my life the way I used to live my life, even under Trump, even under Bush, even under Obama. Not much has changed for me. I'm sure I always had.
I'm curious, Dennis. Do you look at goal versus objective the same way you might look at strategy versus tactics?
I have a hierarchy: goals, objectives, plans, strategies, and actions.
And outcomes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. And outcomes obviously would be at the bottom of that. And
it depends which way you draw those things. I always draw them.
Yeah,
in
I
reverse.
was just thinking the same thing when I just said that was coming out of my mouth. I was going, you know what? If you drew that in reverse, it would be equally as effective. But I used to have these arguments with people about, no, what you're doing is too tactical, yet that tactic is a result of some long-term strategy that I have lived my life or my professional life with, which I often find, and I'm not arguing in the case of the Democrats not having a goal. Seems like they had an objective, certainly when that bill was worth $6 trillion. And that objective just seemed to be, chopped away until it got down to $1.75 trillion. So I don't know what happened to the goal. How did it get lost, or was it ever a goal?
The price tag is never a useful goal.
Well, yes, certainly you
can't energize people around a price tag. I can remember when I first joined Apple, John Sculley said, the goal of this company is to get to $10 billion in sales. Well, what is that? I mean, nobody can devise a plan to get to $10 billion if that's the aim. And when you get there, then what do you do? I mean, you have to be able to define goals in loftier terms that have, for which the price tag is a price tag. But
Exactly, because
not
otherwise you
the-
can
not
say,
the
let's
objective.
build airplanes. Because
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
how lofty? How much
You can just sell
loftier?
one.
How much loftier a goal is there than to fix our crumbling infrastructure and to save parents and children?
Well, the highest order goal that Biden articulated is restore the soul of the country. I mean, that's his big goal, because we have been fractured and divided by factions, by ethnic. I will list all the ways we're fractured. We all know all the ways we're fractured, and a lot of people are focused on finding the advantage for their own faction rather than the soul of the country.
So,
if we really had goals, we wouldn't be talking about critical race theory. We have a stupid conversation about critical race theory. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, this is a light beer commercial.
Yeah.
What we should be talking
yes
about.
and no, but
What
yes
we
and
should
no.
be talking about, let me just conclude this. What we should be talking about is what we were founded on: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's not how we treat minorities, it's how we treat everybody. And if we had a conversation about treating everybody well, then we wouldn't have high school educated white guys, middle-aged or older white guys in the hills voting against their own interests for people like Joe Manchin.
Let me say something. Let me say something about critical race theory. Our sense of who we are as a country was defined by the American Revolution, which was a definition based on overthrowing the tyranny of some king across the ocean in England. But that goal completely ignores the fact that we also had this large captive population that was kidnapped and brought here and put into servitude. That they're not part of the conversation. It ignores the fact that we usurped the land of a native population that had their own thing going before the English got here. So we've defined this lofty goal of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness without bothering to include everybody else who's in here. And so critical race theory is a kind of a red herring, but it is a signpost of something very deep, very important, and completely unsolved. We have just never solved the issues of having an enslaved population.
Michael, I think it's a really complex issue, because I think if you frame it first and foremost as oppressor and oppressed, it helps a lot. The oppressed, that is to say, people who don't have full rights as equal human beings, are always going to define their oppression through their particularisms, through their specificities. And in America, it was largely black and white. And so if you are black and oppressed, the problem is racism. And that is the problem. And by racism, I don't mean individual racists, although they don't help. I mean structural racism, the fact that you just can't get on as easily as the next person. So to me, critical race theory, which is one step beyond that, I think it's still being defined, but insofar as I understand it, critical race theory is one step beyond that, which is in the realm of identity politics, which is where not only are you oppressed, but you want to be treated separately, as opposed to becoming part of the common. And that is an interesting difference between, let's say, the civil rights movement, which was treat us equal, versus treat us different. And I think that is a really important conversation. And it represents the failure of anti-racism that it even exists. If anti-racism had been successful, there would not be critical race theory. It's because it wasn't successful. Therefore, if you are oppressed, it's not strange that you start acting and thinking as separate as opposed to part of the whole. And I think that's what's at the root of it. And no one's discussing that. It's just a political instrument today to bash, you know, it's a whistle blow for the racists.
I think we're making too much out of it.
Recognize that critical race theory is a term that's applied to two completely different things, interrelated. One is a 30 or 40-year-old doctrine, an examination of how our laws are constructed to advantage one group over another. That's what critical race theory is. It's an academic discipline. It's taught in law school, and nobody in general conversation understands the particulars of how that theory was constructed. Then this summer, critical race theory was applied as a label to talk about a whole bunch of things that aren't necessarily what critical race theory originally was formulated for. It became a catch-all for saying, look, we don't want to talk about race. We don't want to consider whether or not blacks are disadvantaged. We don't want to talk about things in a way that uncovers structural disadvantages of black people. We just want to pretend that everybody's fine. Well, I don't think everybody is fine. There are structural things that prevent black populations from being just the same as everyone else. And that has to do with family wealth. It has to do with where they're allowed to live and where they're not allowed to live. It has to do with education. It has to do with incarceration. It has to do with the war on drugs, which decimated an entire black male population. There are all of these things built into society that we like to pretend don't exist. And it's just a question of, well, everybody's equal. That's not the case.
And it's interesting that you say that, Michael, because
the right specifically used and promulgated critical race theory as a kind of a scare label, a big bucket to contain all of this and to say, we don't want to look at it.
Well, and your point about making sure that we all talk about it is belied by the fact that so many people are out there saying we don't want to talk about and or teach critical race theory, even if it's just a name for some kind of a movement that is existing now, as opposed to its actual usage, which is a law school philosophy. It isn't what it was. It's something entirely different. You're absolutely right. But if you don't talk about it, then where's the inclusion? And that the guy in Virginia making all that noise at the end of his time running for office, saying we will not teach that in Virginia schools. Well, you don't teach it there now. Nobody teaches it.
They don't.
We shouldn't be talking. I don't think we should be talking about critical race theory at all because it's backward looking. What we should be doing is having a forward looking conversation about everybody's rights. And if in the process of that discussion, we discover that, hey, here are some laws that promote redlining, or here are some laws that prevent people from getting into school or whatever. The Justice Department is taking that action right now in a limited way, going after major lenders for mortgages. That was out a couple of weeks ago. We need to do a whole lot more of that and talk about how we all get to share in the American dream without splintering off different interest groups.
That's what I mean when I say anti-racism is the solution. In other words, you have to actually change people's lives for the better and fulfill the ambition of the American Revolution.
Which is what Biden's trying to do with Build Back Better, I think.
On the other hand, it has to be explicit. You can't kind of sneak anti-racism in the back door. You have to explicitly talk about it as a societal goal that there should be no inequality. And it's, I live in Palo Alto, and the word Palo Alto conjures up Silicon Valley. But those who know Palo Alto know there's East Palo Alto and there's Palo Alto, Maine. East Palo Alto is largely Black and Latino, and Palo Alto, Maine is largely white and Jewish. And never the twain shall meet. when there's a black kids walking around the streets in Palo Alto, people will call the cops and say there's some guy walking around my street that looks dodgy. It is segregated. I mean, that is not too harsh a word. Palo Alto is segregated, and it's 2021, and it's Palo Alto in California. So if Palo Alto is like that, God knows what it's like in places I've never traveled to.
Yeah.
Those are the places you will never travel to, because those places haven't changed in generations.
Keith, you've got some experience with South Africa. What's the comparison?
South Africa was legally segregated during apartheid. The only difference between apartheid and the southern states really was the scale of the legal segregation. It was much more profound, and there were passes that you had to get to move between geographical places called passbooks. That went away when Mandela came to power legally. But actually, if you land at Cape Town Airport, the first 10 miles driving into the city, there are shanty towns on both sides of the roads that are Africans, native Africans. And, you've got kind of 500 years of first settlers, Afrikaners, mainly French Huguenots and Dutch and Belgian. And then you've got British colonialism, which started in the 1900s, late 1800s. And settlers and colonialists kind of built all the political systems and created what are known as homelands. Homelands, it would be like if you put a ring around the outer circles of Atlanta, which are mainly black, and said, you now have your own country, it's called something else, and you can do whatever you want there. That's a homeland. There's lots of them in South Africa where and there's kings and kind of lords of the homelands. So Sun City is in one of those, for example. So South Africa is massively racially divided, but has black governance. But the black governance has allowed white wealth to continue, has not really built homes, has not really fundamentally changed education, has not fundamentally changed health access. So it's a masquerade of equality.
See, the thing that frightens me is that our global adversaries are monolithic or uniform societies, China, Russia. I think the only way for us to compete in the 21st century is to have our own monolithic society, which ironically means we have to be very well integrated. And I don't see that happening.
You're leaving out the Uyghurs, you're leaving out Mongolia in China.
Pardon me?
I mean, neither China nor Russia are monolithic. If you really start looking into them.
Well, I'm using a metaphor. I'm simply saying that they are a lot more homogeneous than we are.
They can get shit done
if they want to. The Chinese seem to want to. The Russians not so much.
Yeah.
The Russians seem to have adopted the manana culture.
Well,
that's another. I was going to say that's a conversation for another show.
Well, I think the biggest enemy of all of this is the belief that individual success is good enough. And Colin Powell's a great example. He was lauded as the first black guy who got into the levels of power that he did. Black musicians and so on, people going to college more. And what happened is after the civil rights movement, this idea started to grow that individual aspiration proves there's nothing wrong. And that just isn't true.
You can add Obama to that list.
Yeah.
He was president.
Sounds a lot like tokenism. Pardon me for a second.
So you just got to acknowledge there's something wrong and define what it is. And it's ultimately about wealth. It's about wealth distribution, and wealth goes all the way back to opportunity. which goes all the way back to which school you go to and how good your teachers are.
Which takes us back to what critical race theory is all about, which is about what are the structures that disadvantage one population in the midst of another population. And we really don't want to look at that. We want to say that examining that is a threat.
I lived, I grew up in a very poor neighborhood, and my dad was an alcoholic and we had no money. I remember going to school with holes in my shoes and watching things like The Queen on TV. And when you are in a no-win situation and you fucking hate life, not really hate life, but you hate what you're living through right now, and you don't see any way out of it, only one of two things can happen. Either you fight it or you give into it. Giving into it takes the form of crime, drugs, depression. Fighting it leads to people like Obama. And most people don't fight it, to be honest, because it's hard to fight it. So it's really important to understand at the human level, these social structures don't lead to the best coming out of anyone. And that impacts the entire society when you don't get the best out of people.
Well, there's another factor as well, and I think, and you just raised it when you talk about growing up poor. There are plenty of whites who grow up poor. There are plenty of whites who live their whole lives poor. There are plenty of whites who can't see the way out, as well as blacks who can't see the way out. And that becomes a great political weapon, because you say, listen, we can't pay attention to these blacks because you're taking something away from me. I need help too.
Yeah, but that's an intellectual problem. If I remember
it's not the way it's used in politics. It's not intellectual at all. It's grievance.
Yeah, but it's
greed.
It's like greed. If you've got $10 and I've got $10 and the guy across the road has $1 million, okay, let's fight each other over that $20. That makes no sense.
No, but the guy across the street with $1 million is very eager to have you do that.
Of course, yeah. I think Steve's waiting for us to exhaust this topic, which I think we're just about done.
Yeah.
Well, you tell me.
This is largely.
I don't think this is anywhere close to being done. That's No, in my mind, what happened on Tuesday was that the roadmap for getting away from Trump was published.
Yes, but that roadmap, there's something to watch out in that roadmap. Youngkin was not nominated in a primary. Youngkin was nominated in a convention. So he was able to route around this whole primary issue where the radicals become the gateway to getting a nomination. The Republicans in Virginia did that long before Tuesday in the nominating process. We still have the problem of people endorsed by Trump being voted for by the radical MAGA crowd. And I don't know how quickly the Republicans are going to find a way to route around that in states where the nomination is delivered by a primary.
I don't know how long it's going to take either, but that doesn't take away from the fundamental nature of what changed in this election.
It's true,
well,
but it's not something that, it's not a formula that you can apply easily. You can only apply it with a great deal of work.
Yeah,
it is a path. I mean, it's clear.
All this discussion about critical race
outperformed Trump with every group.
All of this discussion about critical race theory belies the fact that it's a mechanism created and adjusted by the Republican Party to obfuscate the fundamental issue. When I turn on the TV, I'm looking for an indication of two things. One, is Trump and what he represents and stands for on the rise or on the fall? That's number one. Number two is, can the Democrats do anything right? And I think Youngkin proved the first point, and I think Youngkin also proved the second point.
I think you can't extrapolate. I think you can't extrapolate. Virginia is a unique case, and you would like to see that applied everywhere. I don't see how it gets applied everywhere.
Yeah, but I agree though to a certain extent with what Steve's saying. I don't think that it. I think it's clear that Virginia is a unique situation. But I also think that it's possible that it is still a signpost that other places can look at and say, see how that was handled and how that was done, and maybe learn some lessons from it. I think there were certainly plenty of. That's what I meant in the beginning of this conversation when I said it wasn't such a bad thing. What happened?
I'd like to recommend to anyone watching this to look for a piece in Politico by Ryan Lizza, where he interviewed the strategists behind the Youngkin victory. They made it very clear how they worked to, and they were very smart about what they did. It's an interview with Jeff Rowe and Kristen Davison.
They're really good people. Jeff Rowe, I know him, and Ryan Liz is a great writer. I think that, clearly the Democrats' position, just the singular, most talked about, at least in the national level, anti-Trump positioning, isn't what the public wanted. It's not what the voters wanted.
Well, certainly not what Virginia wanted,
Yeah.
Especially because of the fact that Youngkin was nominated without a Trump endorsed primary. So he was able to hold Trump at a distance. And McAuliffe was, just a party functionary. There's nothing inspiring or interesting about McAuliffe.
Nope.
He was a bad candidate, and he never quite caught on to what was going on locally. He was just running the Democrats' national playbook.
He always looked like a deer in the headlights to me anyway, Michael.
Michael, I read the interview you're referring to after you posted it in t.me/Gillmor gang, for those who care.
Where was that?
t.me/Gillmor gang.
Can you say that one more time so that we can get the lower third in?
Say it very slowly.
/Gillmor gang. And it was interesting because as I started reading it, they were accusing the Democrats of having become the revolutionaries. And as a revolutionary in my former life, I thought that was a good thing. And as I read it, I began to realize they were saying it's a bad thing because normal people don't connect with big aspirations that are not specific to their current situation. And in a way, what they were saying is, if you want people to vote for you, you have to talk about now. And earlier in the show, we were saying how you have to connect now to some kind of an outcome. And they're kind of disagreeing with that. It feels to me as if the Democrats, should not stop wanting a better outcome, but they've got to connect it more and more to individuals. More specifically,
what they said strategically is that there is a Trump base that's locked, there is a Democrat base that's locked, and there is a middle that can swing. And they said, look, we don't put any energy into the Trump base or the Biden base. They were going after the suburbs and won the suburbs. So their communication was all focused to the people who were in play. A lot of politics right now is base focused.
Okay, I'm cutting to the chase now.
Motivate your base to show up.
I'm cutting to the chase.
Different theory of the case.
I'm cutting to the chase. This is a poll. How many people think that there will be any vote in Congress on the Build Better Back, whatever the act is?
Maybe back ribs.
Before Thanksgiving? Raise your hand if you think that's going to happen.
Yes.
I think it'll happen.
By Congress, you mean both
said
houses?
a vote. You didn't say final
No,
vote.
I just said Build Better Back in whatever it is.
In both houses.
No, I didn't
That's
say
not
vote.
what he said.
I just
That's
want
not
to
what
be
he
clear what
said.
I'm raising my hand.
I'm just talking about, I mean, there are people talking about it. There's going to be 2 votes today.
Yeah.
I'm not raising my hand for that eventuality. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think that's probably true
When you say
today.
Build Back Better, you're talking about the $1.75 trillion.
Yes, that's what I'm
bill.
talking about. That's correct.
But I thought just that one or both of them?
Well, the other bill's
talking
already
about
been,
both of them. I'm
already
just
been
talking about
passed by
that
the
one.
Senate. It needs a rubber stamp from the House.
Well,
The House
okay,
is holding
then
up the 1.75
Dennis,
trillion.
why don't you create a poll and then we'll vote on that, and then we'll come back and vote on what I'm saying.
I don't have a poll to create.
Okay, what I'm saying is there going to be a vote on the Build Better Back thing before Thanksgiving? In other words, not today.
Well, maybe today. Today is also before Thanksgiving.
No.
Well,
Does it-
then
Are
you've
you
already
setting a
raised your hand
Thanksgiving-
saying that's
Are
going to
you,
happen.
if you set a Thanksgiving deadline, my hand is up.
Even
No,
even
There were a
even
lot of
Ju-
people that raised their hand, not all of them, but certainly not me, what's his name? The Democrat in Virginia?
Youngkin.
Terry.
McAuliffe.
McAuliffe.
Yeah.
Oh, the Democrat.
Raised your hand on this show a few weeks ago and said that he was going to win. So I did not say that.
And
Okay. So now I'm saying,
what's your point?
I'm
So
saying
Steve, why do you take these polls if they're
they're entertaining, at least for me.
I was going to say for who?
At least for me, but you know,
At least.
if it's entertaining for me, then there's a good chance that it's entertaining for other people.
All right.
Because
It's-
I'm pretty
Steve
much
has
of a
a-
centrist.
Steve has
Fair
an
enough.
inner need for the
He's a man of the
world,
people.
for history to show he was right, and he can't do that unless he has votes. Then you can look backwards and see if.
Well,
he-
Mike Arrington suggests that I avoid completely, a real stand on anything. And I think he's got a point there.
Yeah, that's what CNN does.
Okay, so I'll take, what did Brent, did you say that this is going to happen or not going to happen today?
I raised my hand.
You think it's going to happen?
You said by Thanksgiving. I think so.
I don't think it's going to happen today. If you made the vote today, I'd vote no.
Okay,
If you made the vote today or tomorrow, I'd still vote no.
But the question is before Thanksgiving.
If it's before Thanksgiving, then I don't know. Not enough detail for me to make a judgment. I'd go with my-
Thanksgiving is like next week, isn't it?
No,
Nah, it's 2 weeks.
no.
23rd, isn't it? 24th? 23rd?
Something like that. It's the first day of the Beatle movie.
Oh,
Isn't it usually like the last Thursday in Thanksgiving? I mean,
Yeah, you're
in
looking
November?
at 3 weeks,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got 3 weeks.
Right, but they're on vacation next week, so they ain't voting next week.
what
So I think
can-
that is their vacation supposed to start at the end of today or tomorrow? I don't know.
I don't think the House and Senate are on the same calendar.
Right, I'm talking about the House.
Thanksgiving is the 25th. Today's the 5th. It's
You
What I
really
28th.
need to be talking about the Senate. There's one vote that happens in the Senate for reconciliation. If that happens, then everything else falls into place.
In theory, if they vote in the Senate to pass a bill that doesn't contain what happened in the House, then it goes back to the House. That's the basic scam that they're suggesting right now.
What I can tell you, and this supports Steve's point, is that as we've been on the show, the, in quotes, moderate Democrats have said they want the office that scores the cost of something to do that.
Yeah, the
before they vote,
COB.
the COB, and the And the
Yo.
so-called progressive Democrats have said they're not going to vote for one without the other to reinforce that. So if it's likely that if they don't vote for the Build Back Better bill, neither will they vote for the other one.
The other thing
You know what?
is COB is able to get their report out by the end
CBO.
of business today on the East Coast, from what I've heard. So that puts a conundrum right there on top of the enigma.
I prefer voting on the Build Better Back bill.
That's a good sounding bill, Build Better Back.
And you preferred doing that
for the
personally?
baby back ribs.
That was just thinking the same thing.
I would call it the Better Get Back to Building bill.
Mm.
Better build back, better baby back rib building bill.
Oh, Steve, it turns out that the moderates are the people who are keeping the whole works gummed up.
What? I
It
missed
is the
that.
moderates who are keeping the works gummed up. This all could be done if it weren't for the moderates being obstructionists.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
the
takes two
progressives,
sides.
the progressive just said, hey, you know what? We're cool.
And you know, the progressives said, look, we're going to vote on this bill. It's going to go over to
They
the
should-
Senate. In the
If the
Senate,
progressives
there
had
will
said
be a
1.5, we're in.
yeah, in
It
the
would have been
Senate,
over a month ago, but it wasn't because they didn't.
yeah, there was
That's
there was no guarantee that the Senate was going to take up the Build Back Better. That's what they were holding out for.
Yeah.
Build Better back.
And now what have they got?
Same
Nothing.
thing they had before. There has not been a vote yet.
That's correct.
It's early.
That's one that I'm voting for. No vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else that you gentlemen want to talk about?
The pressure's off for a vote now, isn't it? I mean, if there was any pressure, it was to do with Virginia, which is
Apparently
gone.
not. We're going to continue talking about this.
Yes, I've got something else.
Excellent.
We watched The Sopranos. I recommend everybody do that. What a great show.
The original series?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. From the beginning to the end
Yeah,
as a
he
binge?
even-
From the beginning to the end, yes.
He
There
even
is so much more in it than
announced.
I remember.
He even announced. David Chase, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Announced what the last scene was in print, and the guy
Yes.
said, "Did you make a mistake in answering that question?" He said, "No."
David Chase he's a crazy dude.
He's a case.
He is. He really is. You know what? I'm curious. I have a question that I'd like to put a poll out there for, if it's all right with you, Mr. Moderator. And I'll let you verbalize it if you like. But I'm curious. But there's so many shows out there now that are being streamed weekly at a specific time and date, versus that are being streamed and the entire season is being dumped in your lap and you can watch them all at the same time. Obviously giving you two different ways to watch content. Do you have a preference? Now, that's my question.
Yeah, my preference strongly is binge watching. And I don't know why they would care as long as I want to watch them all.
So you have to carve this up into two answers so that you can actually have a vote. So
Questions. man.
no, just two answers. What's the two answers? You just said one is weekly
Versus binge
Yeah,
watching.
and the other is the other one. Okay, so raise your hands for and say who you're voting for.
Okay, then.
Binge
Let's do
watching.
that.
Hands up for binge watching.
Me, I binge watch. I'm all about it.
All of us.
Okay, there you go. That's the end of
No,
that.
saw-
that was Tina's hands.
That was Tina's
I- you
hand
know-
coming in.
Oh,
The
I
hand
get-
that
My
I get-
hands are here.
I get so angry that I have to wait for a week to see the next episode of Foundation or Dune or there's only
American
murders in the
Rust.
building.
American Rust is weekly.
And then you just wait, you could just wait and then watch it all just like a binge and like tell yourself
what I
you're
try to
binging
do.
it.
So if
You know,
we just wait till Thanksgiving, then we can find out who voted for what.
Why don't we
I agree
just?
with that.
Exactly my point.
I think we
Yeah,
should
I
do.
agree.
I think we should do like 10 episodes of the Gillmor Gang, hold them back and dump them all at once.
Yeah, we tried
good
that,
idea.
and there was such an upheaval that we actually caught up. Now we're in that world where we don't know what we're talking about, and we don't know what we're going to talk about either.
And you don't have any shows in the can if this one just goes down the tubes quickly.
No, that one we can take care of that.
All right.
It's out there. Just look up whatever these channels are. Tina said them at the beginning.
Yeah, but let's just not spend all of our time talking about this.
Oh,
On the other hand, I have to go.
It's about 2:50.
Chow mein.
I
okay.
hung out for a bit
Have a
longer.
good week.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that.
I actually really enjoyed this show. Thank you
Actually,
all
it
for
was-
your
that was-
contributions.
It was a very venerable
Five
show.
fingers.
Venerable. You're so venerable.
I was just listening to all the venerableness just
Yeah.
nonstop, man. It was good stuff.
Did you like
Seriously.
that? Did you like that little piece with the dancing?
I didn't even get a chance to see that yet because I was like not feeling too good parts of this week, but I will check that out.
How bad
Oh,
was
yeah,
it for you? How bad was your booster reaction, Brent?
So not as bad as the second shot. No, yeah, not as bad as that, but a little. It was kind of in between the first shot and the second shot.
What
Like
happened?
I mean, the first shot I didn't have much at all. The second shot, yeah, it got me pretty good. And then the booster was somewhere in between.
And were you
Which
Pfizer or
one?
Moderna?
I did Pfizer.
So I'm Moderna, and I had a massive reaction to the booster. I mean, I literally was fine the rest of that day. Went to bed, felt fine. I even talked to Steve that day. I was completely fine. Middle of the night, woke up with a big temperature.
Wow.
I slept the whole of yesterday and 10 hours last night. And today I
Hey,
feel
you got
bad.
it. You got it 3 days ago.
Wednesday, yeah.
Oh my God! I
Yeah,
had
I got
all
it
three of
Wednesday
them. I had no reaction other than pain in my arm on the third one. I was a little tired after the second one. That was it. It was weird.
Me too.
So I really do have to go now. I'm going to say bye-bye to you
My
guys.
reaction
Bye.
matches me.
Hey, thank you.
I'm
Thanks,
going
Keith.
to.
All right. Bye.
Thanks,
you.
Brad.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Bye. Bye.
Have a good week. Good weekend.
Chow mein.
Alrighty. Chowda, not chow mein. Chowda.
Chow da.
Chow da.
Chow da. Chow da. Chow mein. Lane brain.
Later, Gator.
Later Gator. Yeah, that's a good one. We should put up. Let's just write a book with all of those weird things.
Which ones?
All right. Later Gator. Chow mein. Lane brain.
Wait. Steve, why don't you just wrap the show up?
I am. Everybody's leaving, and then it'll be.
I thought
over.
you already wrapped the show up.
No.
Oh.
Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. I'd like to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gillmor. And I'd like to thank all the guys that were here and have now left, and all the guys that are still here and will leave. And
Is there a vote going on
I
behind
think
you
that's
right
my
now?
cue.
Is that a vote going on behind you right now?
Racing towards votes on Biden.
racing toward
Yeah,
votes.
racing. Yeah.
All right, I'm telling you, my
The-
vote is still. They're going to get
The
a vote.
progressives
today.
are being rounded up in a room, and the key is being lost.
Steve's going to be proven wrong.
There's a hamster wheel in there, and they're racing.
And what I find interesting is that I haven't heard anything about who the moderates are. No names. Who are the moderates that are gumming up the works?
Okay, stop.
I think they mean mansion and cinema.
Yeah, they're moderate.
Yeah. I
I
think
mean,
that
there's
I think
so
that-
many people. It could be
I
Clyde
guess
Fromfelder from Arkansas,
what?
Harold Whizbang from Kansas City. I have no idea.
Harold Whizbang from Kansas City.
I gotta go. I'll see you guys next time.
Okay, thanks a lot.
I like how
Right.
Frank's
Thanks,
arm is missing now.
Yeah. And thanks to Harold Whizbang and his missing arm. Yes.
Harold Wisbang, is that a?
There you go.
Clyde Fromfelder. That's who. It's Harold Whizbang and Clyde Fromfelder.
And this must be fire sign references.
No,
No,
those,
it's not.
those are the two.
No?
When
No.
back in the day, when I was doing producing at ABC, when you couldn't remember the names of the guests, one would always be Clyde Fromfelder, and the other one would be Harold Whizbang.
Oh.
And so you'd have on two guests, and one would be Fromfelder, and the other one would be Whizbang. Until somebody said, "No, that's Dr. Krakenstein."
And was this a signing of these names? Was this on camera or off camera?
Never on camera. There was a lot of words that were invented off camera that you never heard.
That would be like
all of the executive
room banter?
producers had a critical word in there that, and in many cases they would use the critical word instead of cursing out loud. But eventually, in around the middle 80s, everyone was into cursing. So loud and cursing was like the way things got done in the middle 80s. By the 90s, the control rooms were like morgues. They were deadly silent. I hated what happened to the control room environment. It just lost all of its energy, and it became done on computers and headsets. I mean, with people whispering, honest to God, whispering. I used to throw shit. Yeah, they did.
Oh, I remember you were fun in the control room.
Man, I loved throwing stuff.
And then there was Bill Tush.
And then there was Bill Tush. There was a funny thing I found the other day online was one of Bill Tush's early Tush programs that he did for Turner when it was a superstation, and he had Jan Hooks as a foil, as a regular on his show, maybe 8 years before she did Saturday Night Live. And it was like he has
Jan Hooks. Was she on Saturday Night Live?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh, yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
You take a look at her. Look up Bill Tush and Jan Hooks.
This was the
and watch
lost
some of this.
years, wasn't it? This was the.
Oh my God!
No.
No, it was.
Those
had
are the
to
years
have
when
the
Tush
second
did that.
5 years. The second
it
5
touched-
years when Lorne Michaels quit.
You mean when it was being produced by Dick Ebersol, who,
Yes,
by the way, was also the founder of that show before Lorne, and just actually went back to it. Lorne was the only one who actually knew how to make it work. It's a funny thing about Saturday Night Live. Even when it didn't work, it worked. It was like you could come out the next day and go, "That was the suckiest, non-funny show in the world," and be still talking about it a week later. So.
It was like this show.
Do you still watch
Very
it?
much, exactly. No, I don't. I haven't
Really?
watched it. Yeah, I watch clips. I watch, and interestingly enough, there's TikTok and Facebook always have good clips. I've become a major. My wife actually called me up the other day and asked me how she could access TikTok on the phone. So I don't know what all of a sudden she's now sort of interested in TikTok. I have no idea where that came from. But if she starts screening her cat videos early in the morning like I do, it's okay.
We usually still watch it. There was a really good show. Was it last week or was it 2 weeks ago? Who was the host? It was really, really good. I can't remember who the host was.
Yeah, I can't either.
It was very good.
It was
Well,
good.
like I said,
Funny.
I watch the
Every
thing about
scene
the
was
clips.
great.
You're likely to get, at least with the clips,
Jason Sudeikis was
Oh
it?
yeah, it was Jason.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah, there's been a lot of clips from that show.
He's a funny guy.
He sure is.
The thing
really
he
is.
does on that thing that what's up with that, where he jumps into the frame and he's doing this and then he just you watch him sneak out of frame and get ready for the next jump in. And he's funny every time.
I didn't see that. I missed that. Is that one of his sticks? Yeah, I don't know that. I'll look it up.
Well,
I'll find it.
If you want to see a recent Saturday Night Live, see that show. I think almost every single skit was great.
Good. I'll go look at it.
Which is odd.
My Vita wants me to start throwing away all the plaques that I have, the Emmy plaques, because they aren't statues. and two of them are from Saturday Night Live. And I've said,
don't throw them away.
yeah, I know.
Why do you have an
She's-
Emmy plaque from Saturday Night Live? I don't get it.
I have two of them. I was a producer
What,
on the
promotion?
25th anniversary show. No, I was an actual show producer on the 25th anniversary show, and on the year before the 20th anniversary show, I was a segment producer. So, you know, they would often do videotape, little commercials and things like that. And I often produced the edit sessions for those things. So I did a lot of stuff with Saturday Night Live.
So that's
I
how
to
you
be
got
very-
on stage with all those musicians.
Yeah.
Ah,
I
makes
did the first. I talked Lauren one day. I talked Lauren into doing the promos differently. So the promos for years had just been the musical act and the host standing on an empty stage and going, "Hey, I'm Clyde Whizbang," and the girl going, "Hey, and I'm Fonfelder." Tonight on Saturday Night Live, that's very funny. And it wasn't funny at all, and it was like ridiculous. And they did like 30 of them, and Lauren would then sit in a room and pick two. And I said, why don't we try something a little different while they're actually constructing the sets on the stage down on the main floor? Why don't we write a sketch for the host and the musical guest that would take advantage of the construction going on behind them and the activity and stuff like that? Pull back the curtain a little bit.
and he bought that?
He bought it for like 6 weeks. And it was really great. It was complicated. We had writers meetings and it was like staged, and I got to actually be a DGA director during those 6 weeks where I had to direct. I have a picture of me directing Quentin Tarantino on one of those things. It was so cool. And then he came up to me one day and he said, "Yeah, that's too much work. We're going back to the old way." And I was it. Boom, done. All right. Yeah, sure, Lauren.
That's
what
what
else?
it sounded like to me. Too much.
Shine
Too much work.
your shoes. Jump. How high do you want me to jump? Sure, no problem. It's like I said, Lauren, I had been asked to shoot and direct the first behind the scenes of the Saturday Night Live for NBC.com, the very first time. So Marcy Klein, so that's Calvin Klein's daughter, who is a producer at Saturday Night Live and also was a producer of 30 Rock. She and I actually went around, and she was the reporter and I was the producer, director, cameraman. And we would do this really crazy behind the scenes of all the shit that's going on in that hallway going down the hall before you get into the studio. And there's always activity there, and there's the makeup and hair. It's and everyone's around, and all the guys are smoking. Keenan's over there smoking a joint, trying to hide it. We're walking around shooting shit, and they're having a writers meeting. And I said, "Let's go in there." And there was the entire writing group was sitting in there, and I walked in with the camera, went, "Hey, Lauren, how you doing?" Everyone shut the fuck up. And it was like they all turned their heads and looked at me, and I just like backed out very quietly and shut the door. That never happened again. Yeah, so we did about 5 of those, and it was like, yeah, that's really intrusive. Forget it. So we always tried something new and always got shot down because it was new.
Yeah.
Well, but that's good.
Yeah. Anyway, we tried. All right. So how was the video on my end this time? Is it all right?
Very good. Very good.
Rock solid.
I tried to figure out a way to position myself so that I can actually look straight ahead.
Yeah.
That is straight ahead over there. So I'm actually not looking straight ahead. I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to do,
That's
but the
pretty
picture
good.
looks good.
It's excellent.
Yep.
Too bad you won't be
All
there
right.
very long.
Yeah, I'll be here until the 2nd of December, and then I'm done. All right, so 3 more here in New York for you.
Okay. What do you want to say? Let's have a poll. Did they vote or did they not vote?
House starts.
Not yet.
Starts
It
debate
doesn't-
on budget bill.
Are they voting?
Starting
Motion
debate.
to adjourn. That's what it says.
Oh, that's right. That was the first vote the very first vote that they took in the House at 8:00 this morning was somebody asked to adjourn and then demanded that they do it in a roll call. So clearly a Republican.
Oy, 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 oy.
Like I said,
Look at the numbers. The motion to adjourn: 207 yays by the Republicans, 218 nays by the Democrats. Well, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Fucking what a waste of time.
no, it's
Here,
it's democracy.
America,
They're
fuck you.
This
That's
is
what it
how they
is.
waste time.
This
They
is
know
how we win.
exactly how the vote's
Yeah.
gonna go, and they know how long it's gonna take to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so if you really think that the Republicans can be shamed into anything, think
No,
again, my friend.
Of course not.
No.
Nothing
Who
shames
believes
them.
that?
They
Nobody
don't give a shit.
believes
They
that.
don't get it. Oh, I don't know.
But the
The
Democrats,
press seems to think.
you think the
press seems
Democrats
to
can be shamed into being a real political party?
No, not that either. Either way. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Why in
They're all
the
shameless.
hell Is it always so fucking disappointing when
No.
we get our chance?
This is how
and we
I,
sit there and
I'm not
hold,
disappointed.
like,
I've
the
given
re-
up.
Ugh.
But you know something funny, or it's not funny, but it is because of the media today. We are
Are we
actually
still streaming?
no, because of the media today. We're recording still.
Absolutely. This is going in the
Because
show.
of the media today, the curtain has been pulled back so far that and the fact that things change so fast. A lot of geez, I keep pointing at the media is because of the situation today. We know more, we see it faster, we make a decision immediately, we turn left on a dime. But we didn't do that 10 years ago. I mean, I think a very specific example is what happens to the stock market. It's like if somebody sneezes at 7:30 in the morning in England, the stock market opens a tick down. Used to be if an oil well blew up in Saudi Arabia, nothing happened for 4 days or 5 days. It just never, if things didn't get affected. I'm not suggesting that it's bad. I don't mean that at all. I'm just saying that things have changed so much because of the way media has changed. That everything about today's modern life that affects from healthcare to the economy to politics, it's been affected by the media.
Totally.
Yeah.
And Bob Dylan's been opening his never-ending tour with Things Have Changed, except when he just started again, and he changed it.
What?
He's not
you see all the
Things Have Changed.
you see all the people that are.
He opened with one of those, takes a train to laugh or cry or whatever the hell it. Too complicated.
Fuck, even Bob Dylan doesn't want to take a side. Oh fuck, man, life.
And
is
we
changed.
are streaming. So you want to call this a show, because this is all on the network.
It's on the network.
Yeah, absolutely. We're streaming. I told you we were.
I saw the record button. I didn't know that we were still streaming. Wow, how about that? Well, anyway, I hope that was informative and important.
I do.
Tiny little brain.
I think it was the image of that hallway and you coming down the camera. I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah, but to listen, in my defense, there is a video on YouTube that I shot of the behind the scenes of there was one camera, me backstage on the night of the 25th anniversary, and I shot the entire thing. And every single cast member and every single big star, alive or dead, everyone that you could even imagine. Honest to God, you have to go look at it because you'll go, holy crap.
Put it in the t.me, whatever that's things.
Yeah, whatever the fuck that thing's called.
Yeah, really.
All right.
Yeah,
I'll do that. It was I had such access. It was incredible. Plus I knew all of them. I ended up I was a good friend at the time of Conan, and because Conan and I matriculated on the exact same day. So we had to go through HR together. So it was like, sitting in the elementary school chairs with a little desk in front of us and some kind of thing and a pencil, trying to write things down with a number 2 pencil and filling out. It was, watching an introductory film. It was me and Conan. I thought it was one of the funniest things that I'd ever gone through. but I
Well-
made good friends with him, and with Andy Richter, we became good buddies. He lived literally just a few blocks away, Conan and Andy, and we became friends. And so there's a bunch of, and Scott Sassa at the time, who was the president of NBC, comes in with the woman who's the president of Paramount Pictures, stops to talk to me. You should see it. It's pretty cool.
The
I'll find
thing
it.
I watched yesterday that's really cool is the raw footage of Hey Bulldog.
No, I never saw that.
It's great. It's on the network. I'll try and put it in the thing.
Hold on. Let me see. Where is this thing? Well, I don't want to waste your time as I skim through my channel. The same night as that video was the same night that I played with that band with Aerosmith. So there was the 20th anniversary show, which I got an Emmy for.
Yeah,
The
that's what I
behind
was
the
referring
scenes.
to.
Yeah, the behind the scenes, and
And
then the
Busey was
music.
there, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was later that night. I don't know where the hell. Here it is. 25th anniversary behind the scenes exclusive. Let me add this. Copy link. Go down to Telegram, find the Gillmor gang, keep it doing, add the link, paste, bump. Boom. There you go.
Nice tutorial there, Frank.
Really? I got it right here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and right there. And who's that on the front?
This is a watch, so there's nobody on the
All
front.
All right. Anyway, good show tonight. I thought really good. Really
I'm waiting for
interesting.
I'm waiting for the catchphrase that we all take a drink with. I'll tell you what it is.
What is it? Say that again.
I got nothing.
Oh, I got nothing. I got nothing. I used to say that a lot. What do you got? I got nothing. But it was a totally different reason. Anyway,
Oh boy,
I was funny.
Okay,
I was
now
watching.
that's
that's a wrap.
I was watching